Hey guys, welcome back. I'm David and this is my shop here at Ewar Guitars. This is episode 8, I think, of the series on building this here guitar. And this is another installment on the neck. We're going to be working on the fretboard, getting it glued onto the neck, slotting, radiusing, inlay dots, front and side, binding, getting the nut set, stuff like that. So anyway, stick around. Let's see how we do. Thanks. So the first thing I like to do once I got the head plate glued on is I put it in this little jig on my benchtop belt sander, and I give the final thickness to the headstock, and I radius the top end of that volute too. So that's a 2-inch radius, by the way. Now I'm getting ready to glue to route in my binding on my fretboard, and I'm getting my little router set up and everything. Now when I do this, that wenge, the contrast between the wenge and the curly maple looks really good. And what I do is I route it so there's just a fraction, maybe less than a 1/16 of an inch of the wenge showing underneath the curly maple, which gives a nice little detail on the side. So now I squared up the end of the curly maple where it fits up against the nut. You can see I got the nut sitting in there, and because I want to push that tight up against the nut when I glue it in. So I'm sure when I eventually put the nut in, it's going to be a really nice tight fit between the fretboard and the binding and the nut. Just use some of that Stu-Mac tape and stick it on there. Now this is sitting a little proud of the top of the fretboard, so before I radius the fretboard, I'll go ahead and sand that flush with the top of the fretboard, so it's all on one plane before I radius it. I just go along, glue it up, tape it on, and simple as that. Binding on a fretboard is a really cool detail. Okay, so I got my jig out here to hold my neck for radiusing the fretboard. I'm going to go with a 12-inch radius. And I got this deal right here I made up, a little jig I made up for my router. This is a 12-inch radius. I'm just going to ride on these rails right here. And I'm going to be able to route it off and get a good radius on my fretboard, and not close enough where I could then sand it a little bit to make it just right. Anyway, I'm going to go through setting this thing up. I always screw this thing down so it don't move. And I put a spacer in there so my fretboard, my neck rather, when I lay it in there, I'm going to center it up real good, and it just clears my jig just clears the top of the fretboard. So I'll be able to go back and forth nice. Have my router up here, the bit coming through the middle, and it works out really good. So anyway, first thing I got to do is I'm going to have to find my perfect center here. So let's see, I'm going to come to the 20th fret, and I've got an inch, 20th fret, just over an inch and a 32nd, So I'm just working on getting it all centered up here, making absolutely sure it needs to be centered. I just stick it down, I mark it out, and I stick it down with a little double-sided sticky tape, and it's set to go. This is a really nice jig. It really works out well for this. I've seen lots of different ways people do this, and this just works really nice. And once you're set up, it takes about 2 minutes to run the router up and down the thing. I use just a 2-flute, it's a template bit is what it is. Just a flat bottom template bit. I run it up and down there. Probably takes 10 or 12 passes on the thing and cuts it really nice. Leaves a little bit left to sand afterwards, but very, very little. It goes from 45 minutes of sanding to maybe, a minute. really works out nice. You can see here I'm marking with a piece of tape, I'm marking where the stop and go spots are on my template, so I know how far to go to make sure I'm off the end of the fretboard. I just line it all up, plug in my vacuum, start routing away. You don't change the depth or anything. The radius part of that jig, you just run it back and forth, and I'll move it over probably a 1/4 inch at a time. Run it back and forth, and it works really good. Very nice. That's really a simple little jig. Really comes out nice. See if I can show you here. Well, you can see that, but it really came out, I don't know if this is in the camera or not, but of course I'll sand it, but I mean, I'm 90% of the way there, right there. I'm real happy with that. Okay, now that that's been routed and cut to my 12-inch radius, I'm going to sand it. And I've got this little jig made to hold my sanding beam. This is a 12-inch radius sanding beam. It's the Stu Mac one, really nice. These things are expensive, but man, I love it. I think it's 18 inches long. Fits right in a little deal here. The reason I like about this one, it almost gets the whole fingerboard all in one shot, you know? Anyway, so since I've got the radius already pretty good, I'm going to start here with the 120 grit, just like so. Like so. I just turn my fretboard face down, grab the whole neck, and I try to go as even as possible. And I'll do like 20 times this way. Then I'll flip it end for end. I'll do 20 times this way. So that's about it. I go back and forth a couple times and get all the tool marks out of there and just keep checking my radius with my little radius gauge, and it's not too bad. It just takes a couple minutes. So now I'm getting ready to mark my fret dots, and I use a jig I use one of my templates, so I'm sure I don't screw up and drill the wrong damn fret thing. And I'm just marking them out. I mark the depth. I'm doing these down to one side. I do it different ways. This one I'm going to run down the base side. Of course, I mark it with my awl. Get ready to drill it. Easy peasy. Alright, so now I'm marking the side dots. I just use mine. I draw a line with the pencil down the edge of the binding. I'm drilling, got my 1/4 inch bit in there, and I'm drilling them out for the face dots. Very shallow, probably 1/16 of an inch or so. I'll switch it out. Now I got the 5/32 in there. I'm drilling for the side dots. On the face dots, I use a little thin CA or medium CA glue. I drop it in there with a little stick, slide them in, and just float them right in there. Now the side dots, they're ABS plastic, I think, and so I use acetone. I just pour it in the hole and slip them in there, and it works good. Now I've got a little 120 grit paper out there. I'm sanding down the face dots. That's also on my sanding beam. Now I'm going to step it up to a piece of 150, and then I'll go to 220 after this. Okay, now that we're radiused and sanded, we're going to get into the frets, and just having a bound neck. Of course, we got to nip the tang off the back of the fret, and for that I'm using a little Stu Mac tool, which works really great. So I cut the fret to length first for each one, nip it with the little fret tang nipper, I take a little file, it leaves a little bit on the back of the thing, and I just scrape it a couple times on the file and it takes it off of there. They lay in real nice when you do that. Works out really good. Now I take a little triangular file, and I kind of open up each fret slot. Just makes the frets go in easier. And I'm told that if it ever has to get refretted, it's easier on the guide doing that. And this is a great little tool. It's a fret slot cleaner, I think. It's another tool I get from StuMac. Works really great. Gets any glue out of there, just cleans it out real good. Make sure your depth is right. Now I just take my little hammer and I tap them in there. It's a fretting hammer. Now I'm tapping them to set them, and I'm going to take them over to my fret press, which is a half-ton press. It's got a little fret call in it, 12-inch radius call, and I just press them right in. Works really good. They come out real tight like that. Now the last thing I do before I start carving the neck and everything is I drill my tuners. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the likes and subscribes. As you can see, I've shot the color on this yesterday in the first round to clear. This is the guitar we've been working on. This is the neck you're watching in this video right here. As you can see, it's coming along. And you'll be able to see that in an upcoming video. I'm dropping a video to YouTube every Thursday. And I really appreciate the likes and the comments, and it's really been awesome. And if this is the first time you visited my channel and you dig this sort of thing, come back again and give me a like and subscribe too. Anyway, we'll see you all on the next one.